Welcome into another edition of Spits and Suds. I'm Gavin Spittle of 105.3 The Fan. So glad to be joined on this murky day by two-time Stanley Cup champion. He likes this weather. It's like Wisconsin hockey weather. Two-time Stanley Cup champion, should be in the North Dakota Hall of Fame. Don't understand why. He's our favorite defenseman, Craig Ludwig. How are you, my friend?
I'm good. I got the IT department on things this morning, so computer's up and running. It sounds like, unfortunately, it's working, so we got to do this. But everything looks good.
All right, that's good. That's good, man. I wanted to have some fun today. I mean, Stars play as we record this tonight in Detroit, so we'll get to some Stars in a second. But man, there's just so much NHL news, and I started taking notes throughout the weekend, and I'm like, I'm going to ask Craig about this. I'm going to ask Craig about this. I'm going to ask Craig about this. So
let me see. We're going to go Patrick Waugh.
Yep.
Good move. We're going to go Corey Perry. Good move.
Yep.
Are we done?
And that's going to do it for Spits and Suds today.
Okay,
I'm Gavin
Spittle. Thank you. That was awesome.
I got a couple others. Do you want to talk Stars first? We could talk Stars first, or do you want to go NHL first?
You go where you want to go.
Okay. All right. So Terry Ryan, 47 years old, gets a call. He's sitting at the local pub in Nova Scotia, thought it was a prank because it was his birthday, and they said, we need another player to play for the ECHL Nova Scotia Growlers. And turns out he suits up the next day in front of his family and plays, drops the mitts at one point. Just a pretty cool story. And I wanted to see what your thoughts were on that. And I also wanted to know, is it ever in the back of your mind, if I had to, would you want to go one more time just for a game?
It's in the back of my mind every single day I wake up, until I get to the rink and play in a men's league game or something like that, and then it leaves my mind really quick.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Well, you keep saying, well, I mean, the game the way it is today I would have never played in the league, only because it's such a fast game and, and the skill and all that kind of stuff. But there are times when you kind of go, that's not the way you're supposed to play that. And I like to see a little more physicality here and there. And there's things that you go, I would defend that completely differently. And I don't think that pass would have gotten across, and all that kind of stuff. So, but then reality sets in when you go to a game and, and I've said this a lot. I have a hard time going up and sitting in a suite with the guys and being able to leave the game and go, I'm like, what the hell happened tonight? Because it's so fast and you literally have to sit there and pay attention. But again, we're not there for that. It's not like we're scouting or anything like that, but so it's just, reality sets in and, and again, with our guys all the time at practices every day, I jump into drills and, I find I backed up a lot as a defenseman into my own zone by the goaltender when I was in shape and I was younger. Now I got my arm around the goalie as they're coming through the neutral zone. So, there may have been that thought, 15 years ago, but no, not anymore.
Okay. Pretty cool story though. Sitting at the pub and then getting a call and then knowing he has to suit up the next day. In front of his family. Just hearing him tell that was really, really cool. And especially on that island where the Growlers mean something. I'm not saying that the Allen Americans of the ECHL, same league, don't mean something. They have a great following in Allen and here in North Texas. But, for that island that has produced some terrific NHL'ers, around that area, PEI, Prince Edward Island with Brad Richards and Steve Ott was from there, Connor McDavid, Nathan McKinnon, they're from the islands as well. So just a lot of history in Nova Scotia. Just thought it was a real cool story. So I said, I wonder if Craig would enjoy suiting up one more time, but he does it in alumni games. Okay, so you mentioned Patrick Waugh, and you played with Patrick Waugh, and that is my second question. Does Craig believe in the coach bump? That's one of the questions. And second, what is your relationship with your former netminder?
First one first. Do I believe in it? Yes. It's been proven over and over that, I mean, more often than not, when there's a new voice and a new guy standing behind the bench, and, for Patrick, he didn't have, it was kind of an unusual time, I think, that the decision was made because of days in between. And not having, sometimes I think that GMs look for that window where, okay, we play a home game and then we play another home game 3 days from now. And so game's over. The current coach gets called in. See ya. In the meantime, there's already been, the consummation of the new guy. I mean, that's happened. And so that guy's on a plane already. And deal's done, and he's in there either that night or the next morning, and then he's got 3 days to, make some tweaks and things like that. So, but I've said this, and there's a phrase: you never get a second chance to make a first impression. And a few years ago, I kind of rethought that, and you keep looking at coaches that come into, regardless of what sport, what teams it are. I mean, you kind of start fresh, and sometimes. There's a little bit more energy. You don't have frustration, possibly. Let's take a guy like Ty Dellandrea. And I'm just using that because he played his first game in 7 or 8 games.
Yeah, good example, though.
So Ty comes in, new coach, and he does what he does. And then that new guy standing behind the bench, like, well, why the hell was this guy sitting out for the last 8 games? And then maybe 5 games later, you go, okay, now I know why that guy's sitting out. And I'm not talking about time, just using that for an example, that you do get a second chance to make an impression on the new guy. So, and I think that carries right on through. There's guys that are on the power play that want to stay on the power play. There's guys that aren't on the power play, or that may be on the second unit, or sometimes get a little, get a little dabble of it, going, I deserve to be on the power play. So all of a sudden you get an opportunity, and you're out there and you score a couple goals that night, and he goes to anybody that's left over on the coaching staff. Why isn't this guy in the power play? So you do get that bump. I think it's the coach bump. It's a new coach bump. And unfortunately, let's look at Edmonton, right? Knobloch comes in there.
Yeah.
And I don't think that the guy that was coaching deserved to be fired at that moment.
Agreed.
I think that it was just, the team got off to at the end of last season, their captain and best player in the game, Connor McDavid, had reached out to all the players and said, listen, we're going to be there. We're not going to be there 2 weeks before training camp. We're going to be there 5 or 6 weeks before, and we're going to start getting ready. This is, we've got a good team, he believes, and we can do this, we can do that. So they all come in, they go through the paces, before coaching staff gets there. And I'm assuming from a coach's standpoint, this is great. It's good that our guys, they have that competitive juices running early in August or whenever they get there. And then they get off to a shitty start. And, they're probably going, oh, we're never letting them do this again. So short summer and things like that. But regardless, I think that you're always going to get that. But at the end of the day, the team is the team. And, that I think I've always been a believer when a coach gets hired and that conversation is happening with a general manager and he's going through the process of interviewing coaches, and there's always probably a question that's asked. And, what game are you going to play? Are you going to play up tempo? Are you going to play defensive style? A little both? Are you a trapping team? How do you play in your own zone? And if I were a guy getting interviewed, I would be saying, well, what do you plan on doing? What kind of players am I going to get? Are you going to make some moves here? Because you can have a system all you want, but in my opinion, the players actually dictate the system that you're able to play. So, with the Stars, use them for an example. I mean, they've got an up tempo. They've got an offensive minded group. They obviously can score goals. they can come back when they're down late in games because they've done it, and so they believe in that. They're not a team that sits back and waits, and that's kind of what I think the Kings have kind of been known for. And I think that's what they started to do. They've got a system in the neutral zone where they play this 1-3-1 and they sag back a little bit. They got a defenseman that's actually waiting in the defensive zone about the tops of the circles when you're carrying the puck through the neutral zone. So if they force you to dump, he's the first guy back. And Drew Doughty, one of the best in the league. He's the first guy back. He's a quarterback. He gets back. He grabs the puck, makes one pass, and they're out of the zone. Worked for them for a while, but now they're having to live on scoring a couple goals a game. So, like I said, it all depends on who was it? I don't know, Belichick, Parcells, or I don't know which one said it. But if you want me to make the meal, I want to be able to buy the groceries. And and I agree with that. From a coaching standpoint, you come in and you're the GM and you have an idea and you have a blueprint of how you want to play and the way you believe that you're going to win in this division, in this conference. What is it? Because that may change my opinion on how I want to play the game. I don't know if you bring in a John Tortorella with a team that's got a bunch of skilled guys, because he's the kind of guy that wants to grind it out and he's doing a great job in Philly. Those are the kind of players that they have, and look at the noise that they're making. But they're a team that they play 60 minutes of hard hockey all over the ice. And it's not really let's tap dance in there and let's, make an extra pass below the hash marks and go across the crease. We get pucks to the net and we crash the net, and it's paying off for them. So,
all right. Second part of the question, your relationship with Patrick Roy over the years. You played in front of him. And what's your relationship? And if Patrick Roy called and said, because you do have familiarity with the Islanders organization, if they called and said, Craig, we know you're a coach down there. Would you like to come up in a coaching role? What would your thoughts be?
Well, it was funny, like about a week ago, and I highly doubt that this was related, but I had a message that I didn't return, and it said, have you heard the news, and what do you think? And I don't even know if it had anything to do with hockey, but the family member has, someone that's related to ownership and is, hands-on with the owner, Scott Malkin, and does a lot of stuff in his other companies for him. And anyway, then when the news came down, I'm like, maybe I should have returned that message a little earlier. But for as far as I haven't seen Patrick in years. He's a Quebec boy, and so he's been in his home province, and he's been coaching his junior teams and winning championships there. He's a fiery guy. He's a passionate guy. He does not like to lose, which we all love. I think it's an old school kind of mentality: is you got to hate to lose. Everybody loves to win, but you got to hate to lose more. And those are the kind of players that you want on your team. So I had heard, I didn't see it. I saw little things that he came out in his morning skate the first time he got on the ice, and it was a pace, and it was a hard skate. And that's Patrick. There's a new sheriff in town, and this is the way this ship is going to run. And, he's demanding, he holds you accountable. And it's something that, the GM, Lou, he's done that before. He's kind of known for bringing in, people just before or a couple months before the season ends. If you're in a playoffs, if you're expected to be in the playoffs and you're not playing to your potential. And obviously he believes in that coach bump. And he also believes in Montreal Canadiens. So, if you go back to some of the GMs that Lou has hired in the past, and, there's 3 or 4 that are somehow related or played for the Canadiens. So Patrick probably fits right into that. And the bottom line is Patrick's a general. And I think Lou likes those kind of guys. And he is going to hold players to accountability. And he doesn't really care if you have a letter on or if you're the number 13 forward or the 7th defenseman. It's my way or the highway.
So is coaching in Craig Ludwig's future at a higher level?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, if there was anybody out there desperate enough to place a phone call, I would definitely listen.
That. Come on.
And it's really funny as we're talking about the Islanders, because it was 2 weeks ago. One of the people I'm talking about, I had sent a text message, and I just got done watching a football game the night before. It was probably during the first round of the playoffs football. I don't remember exactly when it was. All the text message said is that, man, you guys need a defensive coordinator. And I said, I'm not talking about football either. It was just the way things were. Things were happening in their own end, and the way they were playing through the neutral zone and things like that. So again, they've got the guy that's gonna step in, and I'll tell you one thing you'll find out with Patrick, at least as a player, he's got your back. As long as you're doing what you're supposed to, he will let other opponents, he will let other coaches know that he's your guy. So and again, all these hockey people know that. And it's just, I know there was a question, I think I heard it yesterday or the day before, whatever it was. And they were like, man, why did Patrick go? I mean, did all the other coaches kind of bail or stay away from him because of, when he got into Colorado and him and Boudreaux had a little glass pushing thing and all that kind of stuff.
Tough ending.
Like, is he a loose cannon back there? And that's not what it is. He will let his players know that, yes, he's the head coach, but he's one of you. He's a teammate, and he'll have your back, and you do what you're asked of, and he will be right there standing next to you. And so I just think that that's a philosophy that Lou has also, and he's kind of brought that along, whether he was in Jersey or Toronto or the Islanders or wherever he's been. So he seems to fit in, and I also think that when you have a guy like Patrick with a resume that he has, from playing Stanley Cups, coaching in juniors, so in other words, working with younger kids, coaching in the NHL, I would have to say that there may have been some other teams that he decided to pass on. Yeah. And I think that maybe he found a team and an organization, with a history similar to Montreal, possibly, that and a general manager, and he may have had that conversation with Lou. Listen, we're both like this. I just want to know, here's the kind of team I want. Here's the kind of players I want to play on this. So maybe that conversation was.
And it's come out there. There were a couple teams that had some interest based on his championship once again in juniors, and based on some time had gone by, and based on, Patrick was very candid about, looking back, he did not like the way that he handled things in Colorado on the way out, and he should have handled it better. But there were a few teams looking at him for that quote unquote fire and that and that coach bump. And he's joining a team, Craig, that I think has some really good pieces. They're just outside of the playoff picture right now. A lot of season left, so if he can easily turn that. Well, not easily, but it's a little different than Martin St. Louis taking over in Montreal, which is more of a project.
Yeah, they are a team that's what they're going to do if they get in. But then there's a lot of teams like that, right? But the bottom line is, you get in and you got a chance, and so and again, I just think that it ends up being at a time of the year you're close to that push at the playoffs, and when that stuff is all going to start and all that kind of stuff. And like I said, Lou is a very calculated guy. And so, Detroit and Tampa, Jersey, Islanders, I don't know. I'm not for some reason, I don't believe in the Capitals. I don't know why. Maybe it's because
age, maybe.
Maybe that's probably what it is. But there's those wild card teams. I think there's 4 or 5 of them that are separated by like 2 or 3 points. Yeah. So you have a chance. There's no question you have a chance. Yeah. But the numbers that I don't look at all I don't look at all. I look at offensive numbers, obviously. In today's game, you have to, but I end up somehow gravitating to the goal differential, and that tells you a lot for me. And they've got a really good goalie there. And when you're in the red by quite a bit, and you're in the -20 neighborhood as far as goals for, goals against differential, you've got some issues from the red line back. Yeah. And it's not, and I don't believe it's goaltending. I just think they've got a real good goaltender. And we saw that the other night against Dallas. So,
oh yeah.
So they got a good goaltender. So there are some structural structural things that I think Patrick's going to, try to hold him accountable. I think what happened is when Trotz left, and his assistant comes in, I think he wanted to kind of change the way the game was played a little bit and try to play, and I mean, Trotz, when he came in there, he was taking, that guy that take care of your own end and, don't give up more than a couple goals a game, and we're going to win the majority of our games. Or maybe nowadays it's 3 goals. But anyway, he had those guys playing well in their end. They were stingy. They were tough to score against, tough to get quality scoring chances. A new coach comes in and has a different idea, and maybe some of that has to do with the fans once in a while, that they want to see more goal scoring. They don't like the 2-1, 3-2 games. I don't know, whatever it was, changed it, and it didn't work.
Yep.
And you're bringing in a guy that goaltender, they don't like goals going in their own net. so you may see the Islanders tighten up again. I don't know.
Yeah, wanted to hit on this real quick because I was watching Bruins Habs the other night on Saturday night, watching the Stars, and then I tape a bunch of games, and Bruins Habs was one that I went through, and I kind of wish they told Montreal just stay in the room until it's over, but they were celebrating the 1988 Bruins team because it's part of this 100-year celebration that they're doing, and I hadn't realized that they played you in the playoffs. You guys had beaten them 45 straight years as far as any kind of, you guys just surpassed them in the playoffs until 1988 with that Bruins team. So do you remember that?
Do you think I played for 45 years?
No, I'm just saying. I remember the 19.
Played in the 40s? Is that what you're trying to say?
You played 17, but God, you make these questions so difficult sometimes. For specifically 19.
Well, they're dumb questions.
No, they're not. How is that a dumb? That is great research by me, going back to 1988, a historic time.
Where did you read that? Where did you read that? Where did you see it? Because you didn't research it.
I was watching the game, and they were they were celebrating the 1988 Bruins team that had Cam Neely, Rick Middleton, Randy Burridge, Bob Sweeney, Jay Miller, Lyndon Byers.
Unfortunately, I had to play against all them guys.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Did you guys, and we don't have to talk about it at length, but a 45-year playoff drought against a team is broken, especially in a historic rivalry series like Boston-Montreal. Did you guys know about that back then, that you had dominated them over the years?
Oh yeah, it hangs there. I mean, and again, they're original 6 teams, right? And so they were those numbers go back a long time. And Montreal obviously had incredible teams at the time, back in those days, and there was only a small number of teams, and so. But yeah, it, and you do feel a little bit of pressure, I guess. I mean, you don't want it to end. You don't want to be on the team that streak ends on. But it's not like you're going into a playoff series and going, oh my gosh, we don't want to be the people that are the team that, ends this streak. So that doesn't happen. There was no talk about it. If you knew about it, it was because you read it or heard it, or, somebody talked about it in the bar or something like that. But, as far as the guys sitting on the bench, I can understand the argument on both sides. I think this is one organization for the respect of another organization, and to be out there and, to be part of that shows respect from management to management, team members to other team members. And then when it's over, it's over. But when you're the younger guys, I don't know. I don't know if they look at it the same way. They're probably saying, what the hell are we doing here? I could be back here playing my video game, for the next 15 minutes before I got to go on the ice. So, or whatever they do.
And you know what? I give, for what it's worth, that game on Saturday night was very much like an old school Boston-Montreal game. And that's kind of faded over the years.
Yeah, but they're still, when you're playing those teams, when you're a Montreal Canadian, you play the Bruins and you play Toronto, regardless of the age, you feel it and you can sense it. And, there's enough hype going into it, and reporters will always bring it up, a couple days before the game. You're playing the Bruins, you're playing Toronto, and, all this stuff. And young guys, well, do you know about the history? And if you don't know, you're going to get a lesson on it. So the reporters that have been around for a long time from those, 2 or 3 organizations are just as passionate about the records as the players are.
Yeah. Interesting. All right. I won't ask the question. Since you say I ask dumb questions, I'll just say Corey Perry.
Like it. I mean,
I do too.
Yes, there are people that know what happened, but for the most part, we don't know what happened, what really happened, what was done, what was said, or whatever. This is a play for a guy that has competitive edge tattooed on his ass. Yeah. And he does not know how to take a shift off, and he drags people into the fight. He will get into the nose of the uglier players on the team. He'll get into the nose of the good players on the team. He doesn't know if it's a home game or a road game. All of those things are why you want this guy on your team. And, in whether he's going to play 8 minutes a game or he's going to play 22 minutes a game, he will play the same minutes the same way. And this is and I would expect if I'm going in, if I'm, Kenny, I don't even know if Kenny Holland's got any more power there anymore, but if I'm management and I'm looking at the option of dragging or finding a way to get a player like that in here, I would be going, this is a no-brainer. I would say he's got to be well, I don't know now, but he had to be considered as a Hall of Famer at some point. Like gray area, maybe.
Yeah.
Goal scored, Stanley Cup. I think he won player MVP 1 year, possibly. Maybe he won the scoring lead. He may have won the goal thing. So all the things that they look for, and then maybe you get a blemish like this. I don't know if that'll have anything to do with it because we don't know what it really was. But, you play 20 plus years and, your speed probably isn't the same, but all the other intangibles are there. And I think that's a quality that you want for a team that is, scratching on the door of getting to the Final Four possibly. Now, there's always that risk of what have they won now? 13, 14, 15 games in a row or something. There is that, do we want to insert them into the lineup when we're still on this roll?
Yeah.
Is there that one thing? But again, I think he's a smart enough hockey intelligent player that he understands what they're doing right now. What they're doing, their goaltender's on a roll, the team's on a roll. Their 2 top players are back on track. And I don't think he would want to go in there and take a dumb penalty, spear somebody, throw a stick in the stands, to put any kind of wrench into what they're doing right now. I would think that he's the kind of guy, he just wants to blend in right now. He wants to blend in, do what they're doing. Don't upset the apple cart. Don't ruffle any feathers in the wrong way. Somebody gets, Connor gets, chopped over the wrist or something like that. You're there. Mm-hmm. And, you're not necessarily taking a dumb one, but you're there. And so I would expect that that's probably what they're looking for. And I'm sure with him getting the green light by going in and talking to the commissioner and telling his side of the story, getting reinstated, the green light to get back and play, I would think he'll be on his best behavior.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, can't play that long in the league without being a decent room guy. And the other thing is, Craig, teams he is on tend to go to the Stanley Cup. Not saying they win it.
Yeah, unfortunately they don't win it.
Yeah,
but they go to it.
But they go to it, right?
That's for sure. Who was the God? It wasn't Hossa. Who was it? Hossa? Was it Marian Hossa that was Chess? He went to Pittsburgh and he went to Chicago. He went to Detroit. Was that Marian Hossa?
Yeah.
Till he and it seemed like and it's kind of like with Perry. The teams that he went to in the finals with, they never won. And then when he left, somebody won. I don't remember who it was, but right. Not like he doesn't have a ring. He's won a Stanley Cup.
Patrick Maroon has kind of had that too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, they're kind of similar players.
Yeah,
I mean, no, that's not fair to Perry. They're similar and they understand their roles,
right?
Or, when they're on their team.
I love those guys. I think every team needs those kind of guys that maybe analytics won't show how important they are to the team, in different ways. And they always seem to come up huge in the playoffs. Those third, fourth line guys always, there's always a story when you get toward the Cup Finals of that third and fourth line and what they're doing. So that leads me to, with Corey Perry and Edmonton making the first initial move, where does Craig Ludwig think the Stars should go as far as improving this current roster?
I don't know if you're going to, to me, I think if you're going to, any ads would just be depth. I think if you're Jim Nill, you've got to be fairly happy the way that this team has played all year long. I mean, I don't know how you're going to tinker with your top three lines. I don't think you're not going to have, sorry, I don't even know if you don't have any cap space, but so if you're going to try to make any moves, it's got to be dollar in, dollar out kind of thing. And, can you get an upgraded defenseman? I would think right now you're looking for depth. I mean, I don't know where Miro is on his comeback and when he's going to be back. Unless you heard something this morning that he's playing tonight, but I haven't looked at anything. So, are you concerned about, a depth? And listen, if you're going to make a long run in the playoffs, you're going to go through 7, 8, sometimes 9 defensemen. So maybe you look in that area for some depth. But are you going to tinker with your top 3 so-called lines? I don't see why you would. I mean, Dallas is in the top 5 in a lot of categories as you look through the NHL stats, from goals for and goals against and penalty killing. I think the only one that is surprising is they're not in the top 5 in the power play, where that's kind of been their bread and butter for the last couple of years. So, and that is probably going to come around, but otherwise, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And I just think that it appears to be that there's a tight group there. The chemistry is good. The leadership group is good. I don't know what you would do. Like I said, unless you're going to add some protection for some depth or, something like that.
Okay. Let me play Jim Nill. I would pick up a physical defenseman because.
Yeah, but he's going to be a number 6 or number 7 because you're not getting a number 3 or 4.
Yeah. Well, unless you give up the farm.
Give up who?
The farm. I mean, unless you give up draft picks.
You think that's in Jim Nill's DNA?
No, I don't necessarily do, but I just wonder, with this current defense core, can this team win a cup?
No, that's the only question mark.
Yeah.
I mean, my pet peeve is, they're in zone play at times, but some of that is the system. I've beaten that to death. So I don't know how you're going to find a number 5 or number 6 out there that you're not going to, I mean, for a 3rd round pick, maybe, possibly, but then he's going to be an older guy. You ain't getting a young guy.
Yeah.
So, you're going to get some age and you're going to get, and again, you're going to have to look at the bottom teams because, obviously, I mean, that guy is just as valuable to the top 8 teams on each side because they're, again, is anything going to change here in the West? Are the top 8 teams pretty much the top 8 teams? Like
good question.
I'm just wondering who is not going to make the play. Winnipeg, Colorado, Dallas, they're making it, right?
Yeah.
Vancouver's making it.
Yep.
Vegas is making it.
Yep.
Right now, Edmonton could finish. Jesus, they could finish in second over there.
Yeah.
I mean, they could. They've got I don't know. They're 5 or 6 points behind. They got some games in hand. They're on a roll. Maybe LA can creep back and get their game together. I don't know. Nashville's
hanging around.
What are they going to do? Yeah, there's teams hanging around. Well, I guess Arizona and Calgary, they're all hanging around. Maybe Calgary with their goaltenders got the best chance. Who knows? I'm just saying that I don't know. What are you getting? Now, that being said, with Calgary, they lose a few games. Let's just say they lose a few games here and they get to the point where they're not looking pretty good, right? And the light at the end of the tunnel is a train coming. And so that's not a good thing. They've got some guys, they've got some older guys on that team that there's some contract issues going on there. There's some contracts that if you don't like what the future looks like, you may be wanting to say, I'd like to move this guy. What will you take for him? You're going to pick up. The good news is, depending on the term that he has left, and if you find someone that's only got a year, maybe he's done this year, maybe he's got a year left, you get a deal on that kind of a guy. But Calgary could be one of those kind of teams that, you might be able to finagle something.
Yeah.
Because I think that team is going to be they're going to be looking to kind of get things turned around and start heading in a different direction.
I think the name that you were thinking of is Chris Tanev of Calgary.
Oh yeah, 100%. But I will tell you this: there will be 5 or 6 other teams on this side and on the other side that would want that player.
Yeah, but I think he's what this defensive core needs. I mean, listen, I thought it worked out okay, but when the Stars a few years ago picked up Chris Russell, the defenseman that was leading the league in block shots, I actually thought that was a really good move. That was a little bit, it wasn't the biggest defenseman, but I mean, got in front of the puck. I really liked his kind of grit. I love Tanef's grit. You'd have to give up a haul, Craig, but let's see what Ottawa thinks of Jacob Chychrun.
I don't know if you'd have to give up a haul.
I'm saying
like I said,
Chychrun,
what direction is that organization thinking that they're going if they don't make the playoffs? Tanev has got to be 33, 34, 35, somewhere in that neighborhood. He's got to be
34.
Okay, so he's, and I don't know what his contract is, but he's probably got a year or two
this year.
He's what?
He's a UFA after this year.
Okay. So there is something now. Is Jim ready? Would Jim give up a second rounder for him? I don't know. Yeah. I mean, I don't even know the draft that's coming up. Is it what I've heard? I heard it over the juniors is that, the next draft isn't going to be a barn burner or anything like that. But would you give up a second rounder for Tanev?
I think a team will give up a first for him. I really do.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know if Jim Nill's going to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, because the future's bright. I mean, there's some great prospects down in Texas, and they look NHL ready. So, I mean, the future is bright. I'm just saying for the current team, I just have to creatively figure out, and maybe they strike lightning in a bottle twice, Craig, where last year we saw Thomas Harley come up and really be effective in the playoffs. And we've seen that throughout this year as well. Maybe that's the case with a young prospect like Liam Bichsel, who's a big physical defenseman.
Yeah, but the other side of the coin is you're going to be taking Lundqvist out of the lineup.
Yes.
Do you want to do that to him with the progress that he seems to have made this year?
I mean, personally, no. I want to take Hakanpää out of the lineup, but there's my penalty kill right there too. So,
and Tanev could do that, but Hakanpää up this year.
Yes.
His contract over this year?
Yes.
Well, yeah. I don't
interesting.
know.
It's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I like Hakanpää, but I think I don't think they're going to make that's not going to be an even swap. There's no way that's going to be an even swap.
No.
So you're going to have to take, maybe they want to, trade for Hakanpää. And then, you're going to have to give up something else.
Yeah, Calgary, I'm sure, wants draft currency. That's what teams want. They you know what? It seems as though teams don't even want prospects anymore. They just want, give me the draft pick and let's pick the guy that fits our style best.
That's changed a few years ago, and there you go.
Yeah.
And so at least what you've got is you got a general manager that has a concept of the type of player that he wants, because he believes in today's game, this is going to give us the best chance to win in 5 years from now or 4 years from now. We want these kind of players.
If people want to watch Craig Ludwig this weekend, what rink should they go to?
Well, this weekend we're playing.
I thought you were in Dallas this weekend. No,
we are. We are in Dallas, but our U18 team is playing in Plano. There's a USHL showcase, I think they call it. So we're playing a couple games on Friday, a couple games on Saturday, and then depending on how you sit, we'll play 1 or 2 games on on Sunday. But I think we're playing in McKinney and Plano.
Nice.
But I don't know. I heard Plano. But our alumni team is actually playing SMU coming up here on February 3rd. Man, I don't know. It's a Saturday. I think it's the 3rd. And then
will you be in that game?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
We'll be
so
in that one, and then we.
So you're playing youngsters.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes.
You should drop the mitts.
I play 2 nights a week against youngsters.
Okay.
I mean, they're in their 30s, for God's sakes. So, but and then we're also playing the Edmonton Oilers coming up in February. Another Saturday. The Stars have an afternoon game, like the 26th, 27th. I don't know, something like that. One of those days is an afternoon game, a 2:00 game, and so our Dallas Stars alumni will be playing the Edmonton Oilers alumni right after the Stars game is over with.
That's sweet.
Which is always kind of funny to watch because, the fans are hanging around and they do the ice as soon as the game's over. We step on the ice and start warming up, and they're like, all of a sudden you see, all the people in the lower bowl, they kind of sit down. Like, oh shit, what's going on here? Let's watch these guys. About 6-7 minutes later, you look around, they're gone. They're like, wow, this is like watching paint dry out there. So,
okay,
anyway,
so that Stars SMU game is going to start. It's on Saturday, February 3rd.
That's the SMU game.
Yeah, SMU game. 7:30 p.m. tilt. Till
about 4 a.m. 4 a.m. I'm going to hang around and bury some college kids.
Children's Health Stars Center in Farmers Branch. Yeah,
we're in Farmers. That's our alumni rink, and we've got a nice little setup there with the bar and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, tickets are as low as $10. Craig, if I go to this, will you hang out with me after the game?
We could always use a piñata in there after the game.
Can you imagine? I buy a ticket. I'm sitting in the stands.
I'll personally pick you up and set you down on top of the bar on the end there, and we will find things to do.
I just picture me in the stands and be like, Luds, and you're like, nope. And you just keep walking.
I'll just yell security and you'll be gone.
Oh my goodness. All right. So that should be a fun tilt. And we appreciate your time as always. See, this was a fun conversation. I love how you totally know what I was going to ask you about. That was good, man. That was good.
So you're saying that it was premeditated?
I'm saying I can't stump Craig Ludwig.
Oh yeah, you can. Yeah, I'm a little distracted right now. I'm sitting here and I have a Green Bay Packer hat hanging on my little light thing at the little desk I'm sitting at. So,
man, you know what? Tough loss, future's bright.
Tough loss for who?
Green Bay.
Oh, you mean the Packer loss? I thought you were talking about your boys.
No, well, that was Go Rangers! Spring training starts in just about a month.
Boy,
Craig.
did you want to get off that topic quick?
Sure did, my friend.
Yeah.
Go Stars tonight against Detroit, and then home against a very talented but young Anaheim team. That's a fun ticket to have on Thursday, and then the Caps come to town for an afternoon matinee.
Who's in net tonight for the Dallas Stars?
Well, that's a good question.
I gotta believe you've been scouring your X or whatever they're all called, your websites or your social media platforms.
I'm trying to figure out if
I'm still trying to figure out why Wedgie played back to back.
Oh, Ottinger was sick.
Okay, so maybe he needed a little extra rest then.
Yeah. Well, I mean, no, I think he was legit. Sick. Oh,
Ottinger was sick too? I didn't hear.
Yeah.
I think we had a game that night, and I was just surprised that he wasn't in the lineup, or he wasn't playing. I mean,
they have not posted anything from morning skate yet, so do not know who was first off the ice, but
TBD.
TBD. But I thought Wedgie played pretty well. Those a couple games.
He's been good all year.
He really has.
You know what? For a backup goaltender, whatever you want to call him, 1A, 1B. I think he's been really good. I mean, I believe that they're pleasantly surprised with the Wedgwood, guy in this backing up Otters. So
I can see after this season a team coming along and say, you make $1 million with the Stars, we'll give you $1.5 million or $1.75 million to be our backup.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I have no idea. And again, maybe he's in the driver's seat. Maybe there's some other teams that aren't happy with their goaltending. They see what he's done with the Dallas Stars. And again, this isn't like playing in front of an airtight, system in his own end.
Yeah.
There are some things that happen in front of him that he has to make some saves that I necessarily don't think he should have to make.
Yes.
Because of, where they're coming from and how they get there. So I think there's going to be GMs that have taken note. Would Edmonton would they look at him now? I guess, they got a goalie that's on fire right now, but would they be paying and say, listen, I think we found our number one. You want to be back up over here and we'll give you, whatever they're giving you, we'll give you this much extra, but be interesting to see.
I honestly,
does he have a contract going into next year? Did he sign a 2-year deal?
He's a UFA.
Okay.
Yeah. If I'm Ken Holland in Edmonton, Craig, I look down at Anaheim and say, how much for Gibson? That's just me. Yeah. Because that could be the difference maker, a veteran NHL goalie that puts up good numbers. Oh, before I forget, I wanted to ask you because just take a second. A lot of Spits and Suds listeners asked me this, and I said, well, I should ask the pro. Back in the day, you were in front of the net, and you could, there were different methods that you could clear space. I feel like game after game, we see a rebound being tapped in from the opposition and the Stars losing their man in front of the net. When you watch the Stars, is there anything they can do to change that? Because I just feel like it's a repetitive.
Up off the ice. Get the sticks up off the ice.
Okay.
Now, so I hate it when defensemen put their sticks over the top of the offensive player's stick. Get it up off the ice. Pretty hard. You can't kick it in the net. And so but again, position. Now, easy. I can go off that rant. I'm not gonna. It's difficult to get your defensive position at times because you're following your guy around, and I don't like it. I hate it when I see forwards covering the front of the net and defensemen out at the top of the circles chasing a forward that's going the other way. Don't like it. So now you're chasing back to your own net, which the phrase always used to be, if a defenseman's chasing back to his own net, something's wrong because you lost your position. So now that's changed. I mean, the game has changed and there's a little more, skating and movement and things like that. But I like guys being where they're supposed to be, and they've been playing since they were 4 years old as defensemen and learning how to play in front of the net. And the wingers have been playing since they were 4 years old, trying to, play at the top of the circles and the hash marks and get pucks out of the zone and receive and make a pass there on the wall. And now they're in front covering people. So that's just the way it is. But again, you're rolling along here. So if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Man, we were having such a good laughter-filled podcast, and then I threw that in you. Sorry.
Yeah, no kidding.
Well,
you're just like the weather out here. You're just like the weather.
Come on.
Yeah,
I'm like a sunny day.
Shitty and drizzly and little chilly, damp. All adjectives that describe Gavin Spittle.
Man, I'm like that third line agitator with Craig Ludwig. I can score some goals. My plus minus is pretty good. That's how I kind of think of myself.
Yeah, there you are, living in your birdcage.
And we end on a high note, and that's going to do it for Spits and Suds. Thanks one and all for listening to Spits and Suds as Craig took us around the NHL, gave us some great Stars, in-depth information. So for Craig Ludwig, the two-time Stanley Cup winner, I'm Gavin Spittle. Have a great day, everyone.